I want to welcome from the Ledger, Roy Fuoco, and another individual, not a stranger to this program, but I know you and the team have been busy, obviously with the fall sports in the playoffs, second round of the football playoffs actually tonight. We want to talk about that, but then we've said this multiple times. Roy is so much information coming from Roy. We're like, well, next time you're on, we're going to have you on for 2 segments. So we actually did it this time. So let's talk about the fall sports. Looking at football right now. Of course, volleyball just got completed, as we mentioned in the first segment at Polk State. No Polk County teams qualified, if I think I'm correct in this, for the state finals in volleyball. But on the football side, there's still, 5 schools left? Yeah. One of them will be eliminated because Lakeland plays Bartow actually tonight, but then you got Lake Wales, Lakeland, a defending state champion, and then Lakeland Christian and Victory in the playoffs. So 5 teams of the 11 football teams that made the playoffs, correct?
Yeah. And obviously Lakeland Christian and Victory didn't play last week because of the 1S has one less round. So the week before ended up losing 6 teams, but the teams that have a chance to make a run were still alive. Especially specifically Lakeland and Lake Wales, and they both have tough games. Lake Wales is playing Leesburg, which has a really good passing team, so that'll be their best test. Obviously if they win, they're probably going to play Vanguard next week, which would be tough. And then Lakeland Bartow, the rematch. Now Bartow will. They were without their starting quarterback, and had some other injuries when they played Lakeland earlier in the year. So they'll at least be in better shape. But I think that game was 30-2, and so they're going to have to Bartow's going to have to find a way to score some points. But I think Bartow's defense is a legitimate defense. I don't think they've given up a passing touchdown all year. Maybe one or none. I forget which it was. And so they'll look 2 weeks ago against Lake Wales. I mean, they bottled up Lake Wales for 3 quarters, and so they could do that to Lakeland for a while. But if they don't score, just like Lakeland, like Lake Wales, they have too many weapons, and eventually someone's going to break through.
Yeah, I will set my Bartow Yellow Jacketness up aside. And you're talking about Lakeland and Lake Wales, obviously 2 defending state champions. Do you see that, for making an assumption that they both win tonight? Do you see a pathway where either one of them is able to defend that state title and win another one? Just from what you've seen this year so far.
Yeah, I mean, Lake Wales is going to have to get by Vanguard, and if they get by Vanguard, I think they get to the Final Four. I mean, obviously the Final Four. I think they get to the title game. Mainland is probably going to stand in their way again, and so that that's good. That would be a good game. We'll see how by then how they're going to match up and all. Lakeland, I think if they win, I think they're going to probably play Lake Mineola. I think they get by that okay, and then they reseed. And I didn't look that far ahead. I was talking to Dan earlier. He thinks it'll be Venice versus Lakeland in the first round. That's a rematch of the finals. Mm-hmm. Although Venice, they lost a couple of games early this year too. So, it's maybe that's a state championship game there. Although Buchholz is real strong up in Gainesville. So I'd have to see how the brackets, shape up. But both Lake Wales and Lakeland have the talent. Lake Wales' youth, probably a little bit of a concern. There are a lot of young guys that, they're going to be good if they keep them all there, they're going to be really good, going forward. And Lakeland's offensive line just hasn't been as dominant as typically Lakeland offensive lines are. Like, in the running game, Lakeland's averaging 126 yards a game rushing. I'd have to look it up to see when the last time it's been that low, but I'm sure it's been a long time. It's partly because of injuries, partly because of playing teams like Norland and St. Joe's Prep, but even against some other teams, and injuries have lost their two running backs, but the guys they have running, are still talented. I mean, this sophomore Jadarius Doby, I mean, he's going to be good for the next, for 2 more years. So, but part of it is that you get to see it. The offensive line just hasn't been, winning the battles consistently like they normally do. And I think that's a theme around the county. There's a lot of good defensive lines, I think, this year. I think offensive lines, I think, are a little bit down. Although Lake Wales might have the best.
Of all those teams that Neal mentioned, they're still in it. And obviously, you just in detail talked about Lakeland, Lake Wales. Who has the best shot of everybody that's left from Polk County that you think best odds of either going to this championship or winning it all?
I might say
none. You could say none.
I mean,
multiple choice.
Well, it's one of those things where it's always hard to go against Lakeland when they have talent.
It's a different year for them.
But at the same time, it's like, I've been liking Lake Wales at the beginning of the year. Now at the end, when they beat Bartow, Tavares was telling somebody, he goes, everybody thought we were going to just go 5-5, and I'm thinking, who's everybody? I never had them, partly because of their schedule, partly because I knew the talent they had back. I go, I don't know if they're going to make a run, but they're going to go at least 8-2 or something, if not,
Do you think he really believes that, or do you think that's like the Kirby Smart?
Yeah.
We're disrespected, and to keep them motivated, because obviously Georgia's looking for a 3rd straight national championship. Last year, going to the college football playoff, they were defending national champion, and he had them motivated that they were being disrespected and nobody thought they could win. Do you think there's a little bit of that in there?
Well, I think what it is they, just like, a lot of coaches, especially in a lot of athletes, is they might hear that outlier that's saying, "Oh, you're no good," and then that becomes the norm,
Sure.
So I'm sure it was out there on social media, something. "Oh, you're not going to be as good. You lost so and so, Carlos Mitchell at Lakeland, or what have you," and they hear that stuff, and so they kind of pick it up. Now that's one thing. I think that was the key to Bill Castle's success over the years, is not that he would, let's say, listen to that as much as he honestly thought that the team he was playing was as good as he would kind of tell you, because he was always concerned, about something, and so his teams were always prepared, So it was just that mindset about not taking anybody lightly, and so you see that kind of carried over. Sometimes it gets ridiculously like there was one athlete, I forget who it was, on the Lakeland team in '06. When they won the 3rd straight state title and the 2nd national championship, and they still said, nobody expected us to win. It's like, everybody expected you to win.
At this point, until you don't win.
Yeah.
Well, so if you look at it, typically in the playoffs, and looking at these teams, of course, Victory Christian, Lakeland Christian, still in it as well. Which those teams haven't maybe been as good as we've seen them be in the past. Doesn't mean that they don't have a pathway in the playoffs here. But your point about Lakeland and inability, or at least not what it has been, to run the ball. Typically in playoff football, the team that can run the ball and control the clock, take the air out of the ball, if you will, especially if you're playing someone that maybe has a little more talent than you, and then be able to control the line of scrimmage on the defensive side. So do you think that's maybe the Achilles heel for this Lakeland football team, if they're not able to run the ball later in the playoffs, or even tonight against a good front seven of Bartow? Well, actually, the whole defense is good, like you said.
Yeah, the thing of it is they've found ways to, they've got a lot of weapons in the receivers, and their quarterback is good. So you want to kind of take a little step back and say, they don't have to run the ball all the time. If it's not working, and they do get some cheap passing yards, with the jet sweep, and they flip it ahead.
Yeah.
That's a pass. That's a pass. It's a forward pass. But before, there used to be a handoff, or they'd go behind and be rushing yards. Now that goes down under the passing category, because they always flip it, because if they drop it, it's an incomplete pass, and they don't have to worry about a fumble. But but they were missing receivers last week, and you look, they had a big run here, a big run here, a big receiver, 3 big receiving plays. Xander Smith is one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the county. I don't know maybe the best, and they've got like receivers. They're like missing, I think, two of the top receivers last week, and they were still deep. I mean, Carlos Mitchell was one of the top receivers in the county last year at Lake Wales, and he's like third or fourth on the team this year with receptions, because they have a Jamar Taylor, they have Rick Pennick, they have Pat Dennis, and so that's the one thing, like, why Lakeland is still going to be a hard out is because those guys I mentioned are all capable of going 40, 50 yards on any kind of a play, and they're a big play team, Lakeland this year.
Yeah. And the speed kills.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of it.
A lot of speed, and you got to give Marvin Frazier credit. When Xander Smith was out those 1.5 games, and even the first game he was back, they were kind of limiting him, because he wasn't quite 100%. It's not like they drew up plays specifically to make up for it, but they had the plays in the playbook. Some of these wide receiver passes they did, and he kind of knew what to pick out. That stuff they practiced they have, I think, 4 wide receiving touchdown passes this year. So they're going to find ways to they may not do a drive that Lake Castle had to end the title game last year, whatever it was, 16, 17 plays all on the ground to the 1 yard line, going 80, 90 yards. But they're gonna make a lot of big plays too.
Well, we've talked a lot about Lakeland. Of course, we said there's 5 teams left, and we're going to have to go to break here in a few seconds, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the winter sports. And if you wonder why we're talking so much about prep sports on this Sports Central, because all these players have been developed in travel ball and in youth leagues, and so many of these players know other players across the state because they've spent all their time coming to Polk County competing against them. So before I go, I'm going to put my Bartow hat back on. What percentage chance do you give the Yellow Jackets tonight against the Dreadnoughts that you just described in depth?
Really putting the spotlight
on
him
here.
No,
hey, that's why he gets paid the big bucks.
I don't know, 10.
10?
So you're saying there's a chance?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've seen stranger upsets over the years, and like I said, Bartow's defense is legit. They get, they stop them, you give them trouble, score a defensive touchdown here or there. It becomes like a grind, like the Lake Wales game, and
because they were leading that game 3-0 going into the fourth. Against Lake Wales.
And so you never, you never know. I mean.
Sure.
Because like I said, I've been touting Lake Bartow's defense all year, so it's not like, I don't think it's going to blow open early. I think Bartow's going to keep it a game for a while but I think in the end, Lakeland's got too many weapons.
So we were talking about the fall sports and the playoffs and football going on right now. I do want to mention we just had a state champion on the girls' side in golf. Talk about that a little bit from Kathleen High School, right?
Yeah, Darby Hancock. She played at McKeel before entering high school, and then she, I think, went to like the Flying Academy or Aerospace Academy or somethher.
Okay, yeah.
At Kathleen.
Sun and Fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is funny because she said, I was talking to our other guy, Robert. He covers golf, but I was talking to the coach over at Kathleen a couple of times this year, and he was saying that she'd been a little up and down. Emily Moran from Lakeland Christian actually won county, but she got hot at the right time, and she's still, by her standards, up and down. By most girls golfers in the county, she had a great year, and she did have a great year, obviously, and that's because she peaked at the right time, and the first state champion for the girls since Athena Yang back in I think it was 2014 from Lake Region. Who was really good.
Very cool. And you know what I saw? Tiger's son played on a team that won a state title up there. So Howie in the Hills, so now Tiger's son is playing in these tournaments. So it's just kind of a cool thing to see.
Yeah, and then don't want to leave him out, and I can't pronounce his last name, but Winter Haven's Anthony Monteleone, I think how you pronounce it. He was runner-up.
Yeah.
So that was, the depth in golf isn't deep in the county this year, but obviously we still have 2 elite ones, and first and second.
Right. No, that's
Yeah, we talk all the time about the talent in Polk County throughout all sports, and feature you all just had in the Ledger was a lot of signings just happened. So a lot of kids just committed to some major colleges. So talk a little bit about some of those.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, you don't keep track of these records, but I've been here long enough, and I know that Polk has never had an early first week signing period where I think the number was, I forget the number, 14 D1s, you know, 3 to the to Florida, 1 to South Carolina, 1 to Auburn. That's 5 in the SEC. Someone to North Carolina State, you know, baseball player. So not only Division I, but then a bunch of like Power 5, you know, types. And
yes.
It's you know, usually have a couple of really big ones and a lot of mid majors or smaller signings. But the number of, you know, elite level this year, I've never seen it like this.
Yeah, and it's funny, you know, we do the All Sports Awards,
I was
obviously,
curious to say the same
done it for
thing.
many years, and you see these kids, they're not kids, but to me, I guess I'm old now. But
yeah,
we see these players go through every year, and they're winning as a freshman, as a sophomore, junior, and then you see you go to ledger.com and you see the story, and like Red Oxley, she's won every single year the All Sports Awards, and you all even had a picture with the article online with the All Sports Awards in front of her and all the awards she's won. So it's cool to see the progression.
Yeah, and then like the family, Pat Border's daughter was the one that went to Auburn, you know, soccer, and you know, her older siblings, two went to USF and 2 went to Weber, and you know, the younger one always sometimes seems to be better. But she's already off to a hot start, and you know, it'll be interesting if she reaches 100 goals. She had 8 in the first 3 games to give her 70, and she had 32 last year. So you know, we'll see if she can, you know, hit that milestone.
Amazing athletes, absolutely. Well, we talked with Dan Talbot early in the show about state championships coming here. Of course, boys and girls basketball has been here for a very long time because of all the things that we mentioned earlier. Winter Haven has been boys have been 2 straight years to the Final Four. Haven't been able to kind of get over that last step or hurdle, if you will, to win the state championship. Winter Haven girls continue to be really good. I know Victory boys are going to be really, really good. So talk about, you know, and never count out, I think you've said before, never count out McGriff, whatever he's doing at Bartow. What teams are you looking for? Are you looking for Winter Haven boys to get back to RP? Winter Haven girls? Who are some of the teams or maybe some of the other sports that you're looking for success?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with Winter Haven boys. I mean, because Isaac Salazar and Jamie Phillips Jr., they're back. You know, they're seniors. You could have gone with either one of them last year, or even Dylan James, who's at Georgia now, for Player of the Year. But just specifically with Winter Haven, and you know, they play smart. They do what they need to do. I mean, Jamie's going to handle the ball a lot. Yeah, he's a big guy that can go inside. And last year, he really impressed me with how he just always knew what the team needed. You know, whether, you know, okay, Isaac's not scoring or Dylan's not scoring or outside shooting, and then he would, you know, be more aggressive. And then when they were doing their job, he would just get on the ball. You know, he kind of split with KJ Parker, you know, handling the ball last year. And, you know, KJ, from what I understand, is doing a great job up at Florida A&M. And then they got Zay Mosley from a junior from Jordan Christian, who, you know, if a lot of fans probably didn't see him because he played for you know, for JCP, but you know, he's one of the top 5 players in the county. So right there again, they have 3, you know, really good players. So it starts with Winter Haven. I mean, they have another chance to, you know, to finally, you know, break through and finally win it for the first time since Otis Birdsong's team in the early 70s. And then you're right, you know, Victory Christian. I mean, LJ Kaysen, you know, he was one of the signings. He went to Florida Atlantic. You know, he's probably one of the best pure scorers, you know, in the past 30 years or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying the best, but he's up there, you know, short list. He had 57 in a game last year. And they've got, he's I think an 8th grader, but they've got height, you know. And I think they're watching how they bring him along this because he's going to be really good, so they don't want to throw too much at him. But Victory still has to get by, I think it's OCP, Orlando Christian, in the playoffs. So that'll be a tough battle. But maybe this is the year. I mean, they were playing good last year, and just they progressed. So we'll see if this is the year they finally get over the hump. And then when I was talking to McGriff a couple weeks ago, at least they're healthy this year. I mean, that was one of the big things last year is they were always hurt. So you never saw the best of what they have, and so they'll be a factor in 7A, I believe. Probably the favorite in the district. I think Lakeland lost a lot. Daraja Hardy, their best player, he's expected back at some point, but he's still dealing with a football injury. So he's, from what I've been hearing, he's going to be out to start the season. Lakeland, lost Tyler Williams and Roe Hardy to graduation. So this is kind of a rebuilding year for them.
It's funny. Going back to McGriff and Bartow, he said something so funny, perfectly McGriff, with this statement. Of course, he went into the Polk County Sports Hall of Fame this past June, and he said, well, if I have another year like I had last year, I'm going to be the first Hall of Famer fired the season after. I thought that was perfectly McGriff. Well, what about soccer? Obviously, soccer has started. Lakeland Christian girls have been a power, winning, 3 in a row. How's it looking for them or any of the other teams? Auburndale, I know it was featured. What are we looking at for soccer?
I mean, Lakeland Christian, it starts with them. They're off to a 5-1 start. They've played a lot of games early. Not a lot of great competition yet. They've got some good teams coming up. They lost to Carrollwood Day 3-0, and actually went out to that game because if they had won it, it would have been Jason Street's 400th win. He's since got that since then, and they lost. They were down 2-0 early, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Jason about that game yet. But and then they missed a bunch of opportunities. I mean, point blank, girl running down the right side, beautiful cross, point blank in front, right at the keeper or something, or hit the post or something like that. So they had chances. They lost 3-0. They had chances to score 1 or 2 goals, and they gave up a late one. So I think that was probably maybe a game where they have a lot of new players on the team, and it may have taken them a little bit of time to kind of not gel as much as realize, okay, this is that next level that we need to be able to compete at. Because like I said, those first 2 goals were in the first, I think, 10 minutes. So now, so they're going to still be a factor. I don't know if they're going to win a 4th in a row. I mean, because they're still talk to Jason Streets. He's still trying to, get the defense settled. I mean, they got one of the best defenders of the county, Hallie Johnson, but everybody else around her is new, so it's going to take time to build that chemistry. You may have the talent, but obviously defense in soccer is so much of knowing how to cover for each other in that chemistry on the back line. Jenkins, I think, is going to be better this year. Auburndale lost a lot. Lake Wills is off to a 3-0 start, so we'll see what they do. They got a new coach. So right now those two, and then McKeel, they graduated. One of the best players in the county, Ava King. So that's going to be a big one to overcome for the girls. The boys are off to, I think, 3-0 or 4-0 start. The boys, and they were a Final Four team last year.
Well, as always, there's a ton of information from Roy, and we appreciate it, and certainly no shortage of talent, as you said, Kris, here in Polk County when it comes to prep action. So we're looking forward to it, and we just say thank you. We know it's a lot, and you are working a lot of nights and hitting a lot of deadlines. And we appreciate everything you do and what the Ledger does, reporting on our local prep activities.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to catch up with the winter stuff,
Well, we're not gonna let you out of here until you talk to Becky about the Fall Athletes of the Year. As we get ready for the All Sports Awards in June, right?
Yeah, because I always think of that. I think most of my Players of the Year, I can easily guess for the at least for golf that Robert covers. I think I know most of the players of the year and coaches of the year, except for even some of football. We give big school, small school, offense and defense.
Sure.
And I think I've got 2 of those settled. The other 2 we'll see. And the coach of the year might be interesting this year.
All right, Roy Fuoco, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
If you enjoyed this interview and want to watch more Sports Central, click the video below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.